Heartwarming moment, how one janitor's incredible discovery of symptoms saved a CEO's life forever. Dave felt the night air chill as he entered the towering corporate office in downtown Chicago. With every step he took past sleek glass walls and plush carpets, the weight of his responsibilities pressed heavier on his shoulders. A devoted father and son, he worked the night shift as a janitor, scrubbing toilets and sweeping floors to provide for his teenage daughter and elderly mother. His father, a proud World War II veteran, often reminded him of the virtues of hard work and integrity. Yet, Dave couldn't shake the feeling that he was merely cleaning up after the lives of the well-dressed executives who passed through those doors. Amidst his routine of cleaning, one evening, he found himself in the plush office of the CEO. The desk was adorned with gold-framed photographs and expensive gadgets. As he tidied up, something caught his eye: a medical chart left carelessly on the desk. Clutching the edge of the table, Dave's heart raced as he scanned the alarming symptoms listed, a chilling list that could indicate a serious health issue. A wash of conflicting emotions flooded over him, pulling him between his duties and a moral dilemma that twisted in his gut. What if he stayed silent, and something tragic happened? With trembling hands, he knew he had to confront the CEO. Steeling himself, he knocked on the office door, taking a deep breath. "Excuse me, sir," he stammered, his voice cracking, "I found something you need to see." The CEO turned, an eyebrow raised in confusion. Their conversation was tense. Dave boldly laid bare his findings, heart pounding. Instead of relief or gratitude, the CEO met his concerns with a perplexed gaze marred by disdain. The dismissive wave of his hand felt like a punch to the gut. "I appreciate your effort," but he trailed off, clearly uninterested. Leaving the office, Dave felt disappointment settle in his chest like a heavy stone. Was there any point in being brave when his words were brushed aside? Before he could drown in despair, the universe intervened. A shocking health scare arose in the neighborhood, spreading chaos and fear through the community. Illness had no economic barriers, and it crept into the lives of the wealthy, forcing the corporate elite and struggling residents to confront their shared humanity. A ripple of panic ensued, bonding folks together like never before. As the community rallied, Dave's act of courage didn't fade into obscurity. Word got around, and as the seriousness of the health scare intensified, it finally reached the CEO's ears. His indifference shifted as reality pressed down on him. Mortality didn't care about wealth. The stories of the locals began to seep into his stressful life. Now under this tightening strain, the world both men lived in slowly merged. Would they finally see that they were not as separate as they once believed? As hope flickered in the air, something beautiful began to take shape. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the midst of this turmoil, a shared desire for connection blossomed in the cracks of their segmented lives. Could these two men find common ground, rise above their divisions, and transform hearts and lives in the process? The question lingered, heavy with anticipation, leaving the reader yearning for the next chapter of their intertwined destinies. The dawn brought a new energy to the city, cast in shades of gold and orange as sunlight streaked through the skyscrapers. Dave arrived at the office with a sense of urgency thrumming in his veins. The tension in the community after the health scare was palpable, and he felt a spark of hope, the kind that made his heart race. Could his small act of bravery, however ignored at first, mean something bigger now? As he swept the lobby floor, an unusual sight caught his eye. Groups of employees gathered, chatting in hushed tones, their brows knitted with concern. He heard snippets of conversation: a colleague who had fallen ill, another who had a family member in the hospital, and a nurse who mentioned the rising rate of symptoms in several patients. It was as if the whole corporate world had suddenly become aware of its fragile humanity. That morning, just as Dave was stepping into the staff kitchen to empty the trash, he spotted the CEO, Michael Thompson, standing by the coffee machine. Usually composed and commanding, Michael appeared different today, his shoulders slumped, deep shadows beneath his eyes. He was staring out the window, lost in thought. Dave hesitated. This was the moment to try again. Maybe the fear around them had shifted something in Michael. As if sensing Dave's presence, Michael turned, a vacant expression crossing his face. The air thickened with unspoken words. "Hey," Dave started, his voice steadier than he felt. "I wanted to check on you. I know things have been rough." Michael's gaze dropped, and a sigh escaped his lips. "I've been thinking about those symptoms you mentioned." His voice trailed off, revealing a vulnerability that had rarely been part of his demeanor. "That chart was alarming," Dave replied, stepping a little closer. "You know, it's okay to admit you're worried. We're all in this together." A tightness formed in Michael's throat as he considered Dave's words. This wasn't just a janitor speaking to him anymore. This was a man reflecting the worries and resilience of the community, mirroring the struggles that had finally reached the insulated walls of the corporate tower. "I didn't believe you at first," Michael admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I thought I could handle it. But I see it everywhere now. It's like a wave has come crashing down on all of us." "I think we need to do something," Dave suggested, a sense of purpose igniting within him. "Not just for ourselves, but for everyone who looks up to us." Michael met his gaze, realization dawning in his eyes. "You're right. We can't just keep on like this. We need to unite the company with the community, hold health fairs, bring in doctors, something impactful." It was as if a door opened between them, revealing the possibility of a collaboration that could spark change. "What do you think?" Michael asked, his composure starting to shift into something warmer, something more human. Dave felt a rush of courage. "I think it can heal us all, including you." As they began outlining their plans, a bond formed, a connection built on understanding and the desire to serve a greater purpose. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about thriving together amidst adversity. But just as they began to sketch out ideas, a muffled commotion erupted from the hallway. A frantic energy filled the air as worried voices rose, interrupting the moment of unity. "Is someone hurt? What's happening?" Dave asked, his heart racing, not knowing that what awaited outside could rock their newfound connection to its core. Little did they know, life had more twists ahead, and the fate of their community and themselves might depend on the decisions they made in the face of that unexpected chaos. A sudden roar of voices pulled Dave and Michael from their conversation. The noise grew more urgent, like a rolling thunderstorm sweeping through the building. Dave's heart pounded in his chest as he exchanged a worried glance with Michael. "Come on." Michael gestured in the direction of the hallway, an energy of determination sparking in his eyes. They rushed out of the kitchen, leaving behind their plans, and entered a chaotic scene. Employees stood clustered around the entrance, their expressions a mix of disbelief and fear. In the center, a young intern, Ethan, lay sprawled on the floor, his face pale as a ghost. Nearby, a couple of colleagues knelt beside him, their hands trembling slightly, unsure of what to do next. It was clear that they had been caught off guard, just like the rest of them. "Someone call 911. Michael barked, his authoritative voice cutting through the panic. "And get a first aid kit." Dave felt a well of unease wash over him. He had just been thinking about how to make a difference, but this moment felt like a jarring reminder of the stakes at hand. Without thinking, he edged closer to the group, drawn by an instinct to help. He crouched next to Ethan, assessing the situation. Panic fluttered in his stomach, but he pushed it aside. "Ethan, can you hear me?" he asked gently, placing a hand on the intern's shoulder. The boy stirred, eyes fluttering open, confusion evident in his gaze. "Dave?" Ethan mumbled, trying to sit up but grimacing with pain. "What happened?" You fainted. Dave kept his tone calm, even as worry creased his brow. Just lay still. Help is coming. He looked around, spotting Michael speaking frantically on the phone, trying to coordinate their response. The minutes stretched into an eternity as the world around them buzzed with frantic energy and muffled cries. Michael's presence became a steadying force, even amidst the chaos. Dave could see how the CEO rallied those around him, calming fears and channeling their anxiety into productive action. Do you have allergies, Ethan? Michael shouted over the noise. Peanuts, Ethan muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Okay. Clear the area, everyone. Michael ordered, his gaze scanning the crowd. Let us keep Ethan calm. We need fresh air and space. The employees shuffled aside, forming a makeshift barrier while the sirens wailed in the distance. It's going to be okay, Dave said, keeping his hand resting on Ethan's shoulder. He wasn't sure if he was reassuring his friend or himself. His heart raced as he watched Michael, who seemed transformed, stepping into his leadership role with newfound purpose. This situation, so terrifying, also felt charged with potential. It brought them all together, unified in fear for Ethan's safety. I'll stay with you, Dave said softly. Thanks. Relief washed over Ethan's face, and Dave could feel the strength of that fragile connection. They were in this together. When the ambulance finally arrived, it was evident that things were changing. Not just for Ethan, but for all of them. This incident had shattered whatever shell they had been in. Now they were forced to confront what mattered most. As the paramedics moved in, Michael's gaze met Dave's. This has to change everything, doesn't it? He said, his voice low but full of conviction. Yeah, Dave agreed, sensing a shift in the energy of the room. It already has. But just as they thought clarity might come from the chaos, an emergency alert flashed on everyone's phones. A number to call, a warning issued. This was beyond one individual's collapse. It felt like a chilling echo of the growing storm that loomed over them, what awaited in the coming days. And was their connection powerful enough to face what lingered in the shadows? The chaos lingered like a pall over the office long after the paramedics whisked Ethan away. People buzzed with anxious energy, their eyes darting to one another, silently seeking reassurance that everything would be all right. Michael stood at the entrance, his face etched with concern, as he stared down the hallway where the stretcher had disappeared. Everyone, take a deep breath, he called, his voice firm yet softening as he tried to stabilize the room's shaking foundation. We need to regroup and support one another. Let us help each other through this. But amidst his words, a sense of urgency pressed against Dave's chest. What did that emergency alert really mean? It echoed in his mind, teasing at worries he didn't quite comprehend. He turned to find Michael, who had a furrowed brow, now deep in thought. Michael glanced over at Dave, his eyes intense, full of something unspoken. We need to get to the bottom of this, he said, his voice low, as if sharing a secret. This isn't just a coincidence. Something feels off. Yeah. It's like we're standing on a precipice and can't see what's coming, Dave replied, rubbing his temples as if it could ease the mounting pressure. They stepped away from the crowd, finding a quiet corner of the building. The energy was different here, calmer. I've felt this before, you know? Michael said, his gaze cast downward. When things started getting weird at headquarters last year, the emails, the whispers, now here we are, and I can't shake this feeling that we're on the edge of something even bigger. Dave swallowed hard, fearing that the chaos wasn't over. So, what do we do? How do we prepare for whatever's next? Michael met his eyes, and there was an unshakable resolve behind them. We gather the team. We need to talk, not just about Ethan, but about us. About our mission, what's really at stake. At that moment, a janitor shuffled by, dragging a mop tiredly across the floor. Her name was Clara, and she'd always kept to herself, but now she paused, her brows knit together as she caught snippets of their conversation. Excuse me, Clara interjected, her voice wavering slightly. I couldn't help but overhear. I've noticed little things around here that don't seem right. Symptoms of something more than just stress. Michael and Dave exchanged glances, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension washing over them. What kind of symptoms? Dave asked, stepping closer. She hesitated, the seriousness of her words hung in the air. People are struggling in ways we can't see. Fatigue, anxiety, things that spiral into something bigger. It's like a shadow creeping through the building. What do you mean? Michael pressed, urgency in his tone. Well, last week I saw Ethan pacing, biting his nails. He didn't look well, but no one noticed. And there's more other employees have mentioned similar things, feeling overwhelmed, unseen. Her voice lowered. It's not just the pressure, it feels like a storm brewing. Dave's heart raced. Clara's word struck a chord with him. Perhaps all of them had been so focused on their individual roles that they didn't recognize the deeper issue looming. What are you saying? Michael asked now, caught in a web of his own unease. Are you saying we need to expose something? Yes. Clara nodded, determination igniting her bearing. Our company needs to confront the truth before it swallows someone whole again. Before it gets worse. The tension in the air shifted, a simmering potential igniting hope. It was more than just Ethan's incident now, it was about vulnerability in the workplace they'd all ignored. As they stood together in that moment, each of them sensing the urgency, a fortifying bond began to weave between Dave, Michael, and Clara. What if we fight against this, together? Dave proposed, a spark of courage rising within him. What if we take this opportunity to reshape how we approach our work, and each other? Michael's expression brightened, infused with possibility. Then let us do it. Let us not just gather the team, let us start a movement. Just as resolve settled over them, another alert blared from their phones, slicing through their hopeful moment. This one read, mandatory evacuation due to structural concerns. In that instant, dread pulsed through Dave. What were they walking into now? And could their fragility transform into strength before it was too late? The sound of the alert echoed through the office like a siren's wail, pulling everyone's focus sharply back to the present. Anxiety wrapped around the group, heavy and suffocating. Dave's gut twisted in knots. Was it just the building or something more sinister lurking beneath the surface? This can't be happening, he muttered, glancing at Michael and Clara, their faces reflecting his own worry. They had barely begun to confront their challenges, and now they had a new crisis on their hands. Let us move. Michael barked, his authoritative tone cutting through the air. Stay calm. We'll head to the lobby together. They joined the stream of employees heading for the exits, the buzz of uncertainty crackling higher with every footstep. Clara remained close, her mop momentarily forgotten as she pushed through the chaos alongside them. Did anyone mention why? Clara asked, her brows still furrowed, worry creasing her forehead. Structural concerns don't come out of nowhere. I heard something about cracks in the foundation, Dave said, recalling the whispers that plagued the hallways. But it just sounded like office gossip. Still, how long has this been happening? Michael replied, urgency intensifying his steps. We can't ignore that we have problems here beyond what we see every day. As they reached the lobby, the bright fluorescent light stung Dave's eyes, momentarily blinding him. He squinted through the brightness, taking in the growing crowd, all faces stricken with a variety of emotions from panic to curiosity. He spotted the emergency exit signs, their green glow urging them onward while the large glass doors stood ajar, releasing a rush of cool air that felt almost refreshing. Let us grab everyone who's here, make sure no one's left behind, Dave suggested, his heart racing with adrenaline. He caught a glimpse of a few familiar colleagues, their expressions mirroring unease. We should warn them about what Clara said, Michael urged, gesturing toward people gathering in clusters. We don't want to spread fear, but they deserve to know the truth. Clara stepped forward, a flame of determination igniting her features. Exactly. If we're going to confront the shadows creeping in here, we have to educate ourselves first. We can't let fear keep us silent. Inspired by her words, Dave nodded, feeling a pulse of solidarity. Let us find Ethan's group. They need support too. As they maneuvered through the crowd, they stumbled upon Helen, a project manager, pacing nervously. What is going on? She asked, wide-eyed. I didn't hear the alert until a minute ago. Is everyone okay? Ethan collapsed, Michael replied, his voice steady amid the rising tension. But we think there's more happening here than a mere incident. We need to be honest about our struggles, the pressure. This company isn't just about work, it's about us watching each other's backs. Helen's face shifted from panic to understanding, and the realization sunk in as she looked around. I've felt it too, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Before they could delve deeper into the conversation, a voice called from behind. You three. Come over here. It was Jenna, another colleague, waving frantically as she approached. There's been news. We need all hands on deck for the evacuation. Time stretched as Dave turned back to face Michael and Clara, the fear dancing behind his eyes. What if this is just the beginning? What if we don't make it out? What if everything we know changes from this point? Their eyes locked, and there lay in their unspoken bond a flicker of hope, sparked by their shared mission to uncover the bigger picture. Let us rally everyone, Clara said firmly. We have to confront this storm together. We owe it to Ethan and to ourselves. As they moved to regroup the team once more, the atmosphere crackled with raw emotion, a strange mix of dread yet a flicker of hope stirring within them. Their next steps could lead to fortifying the bond between their team or unraveling it completely. Just as they prepared to act, a deep rumble shook the floor beneath them. The pressing reality of the situation sunk in. What other uncertainties lay ahead? And could their newfound commitment withstand the impending storm? The tremor intensified, a menacing shake that sent employees stumbling toward one another as panic surged through the gathered crowd. Dave stumbled back, grabbing Clara's arm to steady himself. What was that? He shouted over the growing clatter and frantic murmurs. It felt like an earthquake. Michael yelled, scanning the sea of faces, all filled with an unsettling mix of fear and confusion. The fluorescent lights flickered ominously above them, casting eerie shadows across their worried features. Not again, Jenna whispered, her voice trembling. First the foundation, now this? Her eyes locked onto Dave, desperate for reassurance. We need to stay focused, Dave replied, even as doubt gnawed at him. Let us get everyone organized. His heart raced, each beat echoing louder than the chaotic sounds around them. Everything felt like it hung in a delicate balance, teetering on the edge, trying to project calm. Clara took a step forward and raised her voice. We'll gather by the exits. Everyone please. Follow us. Her tone was firm, a lifeline amidst the turmoil. Gradually, the crowd began to shift, moving toward the emergency exits, drawn by her resolve. Just as they positioned themselves near the doors, another rumble erupted, followed by a prolonged, deep growl from below. The floor vibrated with urgency beneath their feet, unleashing a collective gasp from the gathering crowd. Helen clung to the wall as the lights cut off, plunging them into a darkness punctuated only by the muted sounds of chaos outside. Stay together. Michael shouted, his voice now an anchor amidst the rising tides of fear. As the group clustered closer, Dave found himself pressed against Clara and Michael, each sharing silent glances that spoke of determination to survive this chaos. Did anyone see where Ethan is? Clara asked, anxiety lacing her voice. The thought of him alone somewhere in the building chilled her, amplifying the urgency racing in her veins. Maybe he's in the break room? Helen suggested, though uncertainty weighed heavily on her words. Why don't we split up? Michael proposed. Clara and I can search upstairs while you guys check the lower levels. No way, Jenna interrupted. We stick together. We can't take any chances. The ground trembled again, a reminder of their precarious situation. Everyone held their breath as realization dawned. The building had been struggling, but this felt different. It was as if the very structure wanted to cast them out, or worse, a whispered dread filled the air. People exchanged worried glances, sharing unspoken fears about their safety and the integrity of their workplace. Some began to back away from the exits, fear driving a wedge into their resolve. Don't panic. Dave called out, striving to maintain a steady tone even as his heart raced against his ribcage. We need to stay focused. If we work together, we'll find Ethan and get out of here. His words seemed to resonate, stirring the edges of hopeful determination. One by one, nods of agreement rippled through the group, reinforcing their fragile unity. As they began forming a plan, a faint thud echoed from the interior of the building, an odd sound that froze everyone in their tracks. Jenna squinted into the darkness, trying to pierce through the shadows. What was that? Let us check it out, Clara said, her voice firm despite the uncertainty. She stepped forward, leading the way with an unexpected bravery. The others hesitated, but one by one, they followed her lead. As they ventured deeper into the building, a flicker of light in the distance caught Dave's eye. Over there. He pointed, heart pounding with both fear and hope. What awaited them in the low glow? Would it be salvation or yet another layer of turmoil in a day that had become increasingly surreal? The group huddled together, uncertainty lingering in the air as they moved toward the shadowed figure before them. As they stepped closer, the world around them fell silent. Stomach knots tightened as they prepared for what lay ahead. Would they uncover a life-saving truth? Or would all they found lead them further into the storm? The flickering light illuminated a small, crumpled figure huddled against the wall. As they approached, the outline sharpened. Ethan, his face pale and gaunt, cradled his arm as if it were injured. Their hearts sank at the sight of him, a mix of relief and dread coursing through the group. Ethan. Clara rushed forward, her earlier bravado giving way to a rising panic. What happened? Are you hurt? I'm okay, he gasped, but the shaky timbre of his voice betrayed him. I slipped when the shaking started. I think I just twisted my ankle. Michael knelt beside him, inspecting the injury. You need to get out of here, he urged, instinctively placing a protective hand on his friend's shoulder. We all do. The building is. Another tremor rattled the air, louder than before, reverberating with a chilling echo through the empty halls. Dust fell from the ceiling tiles like snow, and their breaths caught in their throats. We need to move, now. Dave shouted, gripping Ethan's other arm. Can you walk? Ethan nodded, though Clara could see the pain etching deeper lines on his face. They helped him to his feet, leaning heavily against the wall for support. Clara, her heart pounding, turned to the rest of the group. Let us get out of here together. We can't waste time. Jenna, who had been lingering near the shadows, her eyes wide with fear, glanced back and forth as if torn between running or staying with them. We can't just leave. What if someone else is trapped? Jenna, it's not safe, Michael urged, the urgency driving his words. Let us find the others while we can. We're still together. That's what matters right now. Another sound echoed through the hall, a low, moaning groan from the walls that seemed to close in on them. Clara felt the press of panic, but she steeled herself. This way! She yelled, setting off in the direction of the emergency exit while keeping a safe pace for Ethan's injured leg. The hallway felt endless as they moved through the growing uncertainty, fumbling through darkness punctuated by the glow from their phones illuminating only a few feet ahead. Clara kept glancing back at Ethan, his face white and strained. She ached to carry him, but they were all running on borrowed energy, racing against the instability of their environment. Where do you think everyone else is? Helen asked, her voice shivering with a mix of concern and anxiety. "I don't know," Dave replied, glancing back toward the shadows that swallowed their path. "But we'll find them." Then, just as a breath of hope began to ignite among them, a sudden crash echoed from somewhere above. The lights flickered back on with a painful sting, revealing cracks in the ceiling and the scattered debris on the floor. A visible shift of fear rippled through the group. "What was that?" Jenna cried out, stepping closer to Michael. "Let us keep moving," Clara commanded, her mind racing to keep them focused on the goal. They were so close to freedom, yet it felt as though the very walls were conspiring against them. With every uncertain step, the group pressed on, hearts pounding wildly in tandem. The exit loomed nearer, but doubt slipped in a fear that they wouldn't make it out in time, that they had already forgotten someone important in the chaos. As they reached a set of doors, a chilling realization struck Clara. "Ethan," she breathed, eyes wide with terror. What if the ground beneath them convulsed violently again, sending Jenna stumbling into Clara and triggering a series of panicked screams? "Get to the exit!" Michael shouted, pulling the door open, but the last tremor shook their resolve. They rushed through, emerging into the blinding daylight, but the looming threat of what lay behind them filled their lungs with dread. They were free, but at what cost? As they staggered into the open air, severe worry gripped Clara's heart. Had anyone else escaped? Their moment of relief was abruptly shattered by a distant rumble. Clara turned back, eyes scanning the building that had been their workplace, now a gaping mouth of shadows and uncertainty. A whisper of fear curled inside her. "Do you think anyone else is trapped inside?" she asked quietly, struggling to push the thought away but unable to silence it, and in that silence, a terrible uncertainty hung. Would they risk going back? Or would they push forward, uncertain of the fates of others left behind? The weight of her question pressed heavily against their frazzled minds, the day's chaos threatening to pull them back into darkness once more. Clara's heart raced as she stared back at the building. Each shadow seemed to hide lost souls, trapped and waiting for help. She felt a tight knot in her chest, a mix of anxiety and guilt. How could they leave if there was still a chance to save someone? "Clara, we need to go," Michael said, breaking in on her turmoil. He was out of breath, eyes darting towards the chaos behind them. The ground trembled again, but this time, it felt like a warning, a message that time was not on their side. Wait. What if she hesitated, fighting against the weight of uncertainty? What if there is someone in there who needs us? Dave shook his head, frustration etched on his face. There's no time for that. We could get trapped again. We're not equipped for rescue. Let us just focus on getting to safety. Helen surveyed their faces, tension weaving through the air. But what if you're right, Clara? She asked softly. What if someone is stuck and we leave them behind? The echo of her words wove a web of fear among them. Clara's instincts screamed at her to venture back, to search the darkened hallways for their missing friends, but the thought of putting them all in further danger broke her heart. A chilling siren wailed in the distance, a harbinger of emergency response. As if responding to her turmoil, the sky began to darken with ominous clouds, a storm brewing on the horizon. Clara. Ethan's voice broke through her thoughts, filled with pain as he shifted his weight. I can't walk much longer. We have to decide now. Okay. Okay, she whispered, collecting her racing thoughts. If we leave now, we can find help and come back. The words spilled out, desperately convincing herself more than anyone else. A rumble sounded near her, branches snapping against the wind, reminding her of the building's instability. Clara felt the chill of fear creeping up her spine, but she pushed it down. If we find someone in distress later, we'll come back. With a reluctant nod, the group began to move toward the path leading away from the building. Ethan leaned more heavily on Dave, their pace slow but steady. Clara kept glancing back, each step feeling like a betrayal. As they finally reached the parking lot, a surge of panic swept through her. The area seemed deserted, cars scattered and broken, but the absence of familiar faces hit harder than the tremors just moments ago. "Where is everyone?" she asked aloud. "We don't know," Michael replied, voice tight with concern. "But we can't be the only ones who got out." Sweat beaded on Clara's brow as they pushed further into the lot, hoping to find anyone. A glint of sunlight caught her eye, revealing something shrouded near the edge of the lot. Surging forward, she gasped at the sight. A figure lay crumpled, unmoving. "Oh no," Jenna whispered, her hands covering her mouth in horror. "Help!" Clara shouted instinctively, racing toward the figure. The familiar outline of their colleague Gary lay huddled on the ground, his expression ghostly and still, heart pounding. She knelt beside him. "Gary! Can you hear me?" When he didn't respond, sheer panic flooded her veins. She could feel the group closing in behind her, their breaths heavy with dread. "Is he okay?" Ethan's voice trembled, the lingering pain in his eyes mirrored by Clara's own fear. Clara checked for a pulse, tears blurring her vision. "I can't tell someone call for help," she yelled, but deep down, she feared the truth, and just as she felt the weight of hopelessness, a faint groan escaped Gary's lips. Clara leaned in closer. There was still life. Still a chance. But the question loomed heavy, could they save him in time? "Clara, we have to decide," Dave urged, looking over his shoulder toward the encroaching storms. Tension filled the air, and she felt the pressure to make a choice. Would she risk it all to save Gary, or would she leave, ensuring that they could regroup and find help? A flicker of determination bloomed in Clara's heart. They couldn't just walk away, not now. "Stay with him," she commanded. "We're not leaving anyone behind." In that pivotal moment, they were faced with an impossible choice. The tremors echoed within them, merging with the inflections of hope and fear coursing through their veins, and as Clara gathered her strength, she felt a different kind of urgency, one that could either bind them together or shatter everything they hoped to achieve. Could they muster the courage to face the unknown together again? Clara's focus narrowed in on Gary's fragile frame, the rapid pulse of her heart echoing in her ears. She could barely breathe, each moment stretching endlessly as she fought to keep her panic at bay. She knelt closer, desperate to see life flicker in Gary's eyes. "Come on, Gary," she begged softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Can you hear me? We need you to fight." The others hovered nearby, their faces tightening with worry, their breath catching in their throats. "We can't stay here," Dave insisted, eyes wide as the clouds above darkened ominously. "If we're going to help him, we should do it somewhere safe." "Safe?" Clara snapped, her voice rising. "He won't make it if we don't help him now. We can't leave him." Ethan shifted, leaning heavily against a nearby car, sweat glistening on his brow. "We're not in a good position, Clara. If that building collapses, there might stop." Clara shouted, her voice raw. The fear coursing through her felt too big to contain. She came to Gary's side, posture hardened with determination. "He's not alone. I won't abandon him. You guys can choose to leave if you want, but I'm staying." A silence hung in the air, thick with uncertainty. They exchanged glances, assessing the weight of her words. Helen stepped forward, placing a hand on Clara's back. "We can all stay. If we work together, we can figure this out." "Then we need to look for something," Clara said, already scanning the area. "A first aid kit, or something to help stabilize him. He can't just lie here." "I can check my car," Michael offered, his voice firm. "It's parked just over there. I might still have a few supplies." While he rushed off, Clara directed her attention back to Gary. His chest rose and fell with labored breaths. "Gary, please," she whispered, brushing the hair from his forehead. "You have to hang on. Help will be here." Minutes felt like hours. The group formed a loose circle around Clara, each member dealing with their own blend of fear and anxiety. Jenna paced, her eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of rescue, while Ethan waved his phone, desperately trying to find a signal. Nothing. He groaned, frustration bubbling to the surface. Just dead air. Clara couldn't let despair seep in, she focused on what she could control. She kept talking to Gary, her voice soothing as she reminded him of shared memories, the projects they tackled together, the laughter they shared in meetings. "Remember that time we almost got locked in the office overnight?" she asked, a small smile breaking through her fear. "You thought it was hilarious, but I was so freaked out." A tiny flutter drew her gaze down. Gary's eyelids flickered. "That's it, Gary. Just a little more." Clara felt heat rise in her chest, praying with every fiber of her being that he could hear her. Michael returned with a small bag clutched to his chest, breathless. "I found some bandages and antiseptic. We can use this to help him." As he squatted beside Clara, she felt a swell of gratitude. "Thank you." With steady hands, they began tending to Gary. Time felt fluid as they worked in unison, their fear melting into a shared focus on saving a life. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the building, sending tremors through the ground. Instinctively, they looked back, dread pooling in their chests. "What was that?" Jenna gasped, fear glistening in her eyes. Clara's stomach sank. "We have to hurry. If we can stabilize him, we need to get him out of here." With newfound determination, they pressed on through the chaos. Every second counted. Clara's thoughts raced, what if it's not enough? What if we can't do this? But deep down, a flicker of hope lingered. Gary was breathing. He was fighting. So could they. And as Clara glanced at her friends, she realized they were all in this together. Their connection forged in adversity felt stronger than ever. Yet, looming questions still shadowed their fragile hope. Would they find a way out before everything they knew came crashing down? Clara clenched her fists. It was time to be brave, together. A surge of adrenaline coursed through her. Then the ground trembled again, and a sharp crack filled the air, sending a jolt of terror through their group. "Go now!" Michael shouted, pulling Clara and the others to their feet. "We can't wait any longer." As they gathered Gary, a thought hit Clara like lightning. They may not have been alone in their struggle. But who else was left? As they raced toward the exit, uncertainty loomed heavy. Would they all make it through the storm? The sunlight had turned harsh, bright pain slicing through the morning haze. Clara, Michael, and the rest of the group carried Gary toward safety with frantic urgency, each step feeling like an eternity against the pounding chaos of their hearts and the trembling ground beneath them. Just ahead, the emergency exit loomed like a beacon of hope, but they could feel the weight of the tremors building again, threatening to swallow them whole. "Stay tight," Michael commanded, his voice wrapping around them like a lifeline. "We're almost there." Clara's breath came in ragged gasps, fear swirling inside her. "Just a bit more," she whispered to Gary, focusing on the warmth of life beneath her palms. "You're going to make it." The weariness etched in Gary's face stirred her determination fiercely, yet, as they burst through the emergency doors, the ground shivered in one last protest, sending them staggering into the daylight, a sharp contrast from the dark abyss they had just escaped. Clara squinted against the sunlight, her heart pounding with the reckless pulse of survival. They emerged into a scene of disarray. The parking lot was dotted with panicked employees, some already being led away by emergency responders. Clara's eyes darted around, searching for familiar faces amidst the chaos. "Where's everyone else?" she called out, dread creeping into her soul. "We need to find them," Jenna cried, her voice shaky but determined. "What if others are still trapped?" Clara's heart ached. It wasn't just about her and Gary, not anymore. They were in this together. "We just can't leave anyone behind." The echoes of hope and worry mingled in the air. The crowd began to part, revealing a group huddled around a few injured souls, the commotion mingling with distant sirens. In the chaotic whirl, Clara spotted Ethan, moving among the crowd, his face a canvas of worry and determination. "Ethan!" Clara called out, relief washing over her as she moved towards him. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. But we need to check on the others," he replied, urgency shining in his eyes. As they regrouped, Michael stepped up, assuming a leader's posture. "Everyone listen. We need to find anyone left in the building. Clara and I will lead the way." "No." Clara's voice rose fiercely. "If we're going back, we're going as a team. Everyone matters." A hush fell over the group, the weight of her words anchoring them. They all understood. This wasn't just a rescue for one person, it was a chance to bind their sorrows and triumphs into something greater. With a final nod, the group came alive in a united front. The tension rippled through them as they stepped back inside the now groaning structure. This time, Clara felt something new, an electric charge of solidarity. This building, which had once divided them, was now their battleground for survival and connection. The flickering lights flickered like weak fireflies as they maneuvered through the floor. "Let's check the break room first." Michael led the charge, the weight of fear lifting as they moved as one cohesive force. Clara took a deep breath, each step solidifying her resolve. She knew they had to work together to make every moment count. In that fragile space, a bond was solidified between the janitor, the CEO, and their co-workers, a mismatched but unstoppable team. They searched every corner, calling names, checking for signs of life, for anyone left helpless. Each answer hung heavy on the air, resonating with their longing for connection. As they combed through old, familiar hallways, the tensions had transformed into a fierce drive to succeed, and then, just like that, a voice rang out from a hidden corner. "Help! Is anyone there? Over here!" Clara shouted, her heart swelled with buoyant hope. The group rushed toward the sound, adrenaline propelling their every footfall. They found Anne, pinned beneath a fallen shelving unit, her face pale but alive. Clara dropped to her knees beside her, pushing aside debris. "You're going to be okay." As they lifted the weight off, relief washed over them. But it was too early to celebrate. Outside, distant noises grew louder. The rumble of heavy machinery was approaching. The emergency teams were here. "Let us get her out," Dave shouted, his voice giving into wild urgency. They rallied again, shoulders against the world, and pushed together through the shadows and debris. Emerging outside into the blinding sun, they were met with relief. The rescues were pulled away, thankfulness taking its place amongst the somber gravity of their situation. There were more of them now, new lives saved, a new family forged from fear and struggle. As Clara caught Michael's eyes, a silent understanding traveled between them. Together they had faced the storm, and through it, they discovered true strength. "What now?" Jenna asked, her voice reflecting a mix of exhaustion and hope. Clara smiled through the uncertainty, warmth spreading through her heart. Now we heal." And as they clung together amidst the wreckage of their lives, they felt something deeper, something that would carry them through. The bond of shared experience, the understanding that no one was alone. This was their true victory. "Let us go home," Michael said softly, and together they walked forward, hearts intertwined stronger than any storm. With every step toward the future, they could feel the weight of hope rising stronger than fear. They stood together, ready to face whatever came next. United. Now, if you felt the heartwarming transformation and the fiery resilience of these characters, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now, and don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans know how crucial your support is.